finding love is hard. There is nothing easy about finding the person you're going to share a room with for the rest of your life.
The most important deal you'll ever do is the partner you choose. Marriage done well is a superpower. That's why today I bring you Matthew Hussey, arguably the world's foremost dating coach.
There's an arrogance among a lot of entrepreneurs that they think if you're not on board and you don't support me, and it's like, no, being with an entrepreneur is a nightmare.
Do you have frameworks or tactics you use?
But I have these things I call emotional buttons. When we feel an emotion, and it's a good emotion, and we want to feel it again, it's really, really important to just...
If you're young and you're having a hard time finding somebody, does it help if you're like, maybe I should try dating across the aisle?
Ask yourself, what was missing last time around? That because that thing was missing, I was miserable. You have to have a strong enough reason to believe that the game is worth it.
For the last 20 years, he's advised everyone from regular folks to royalty, literally. And his clients include people like Eva Longoria and Tyra Banks. He's written bestsellers, gone viral on every platform you can name, and also built one of the most loyal female audiences on the internet, helping people find maybe the most important thing in the world, love, and keeping it. So without further ado, let's bring on Matthew Hussey to talk about how do we find love, how do we keep it, how do we date, and how do we not just get married but stay married happily. So for my single friends, I keep hearing that it's harder than ever out there, that they can't find someone, even if they were married before, they're divorced, they're trying to figure it out. You've been doing this for 18 years, talking to people about dating and psychology and marriage and partnership. Is it harder now today than any other time? And what's different now?
I think in some ways it is harder now. I think there's more and more news stories now about what's happening for men and women. Yeah. Not that I want to plunge headfirst into those political debates, but it's become, I think, hard to ignore that there is something going on that is making life difficult at all different age groups. Yeah. You have people who are out there who are really looking for commitment. You have women looking for commitment, and we're living in a world where, I don't know the stats off by heart, but women are making more money, men are struggling, a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men. Women are more educated, a lot less men by comparison are graduating. So there seems to be something going on there in terms of, women whose standards have gone up, men who are struggling to keep pace. Yep. How does that then show up in dating in terms of, are women happy with who they're meeting? Are men happy with who they're meeting, or the ways that they're feeling necessary, or in any way, are they struggling with where they are? Are they struggling with their confidence? I think there's just an awful lot going on in terms of men feeling sidelined and men not feeling like they match up to some ideal. That's going on the women's side too. Women feel like they're not matching up to an ideal. I think that social media has created an ideal that's so hard for any of us to live up to. It's created a completely fake image of what success is, of what a good-looking person is. Like, you can't even trust what Santorini looks like anymore.
That's so true.
You know what I mean? How could you not be disappointed these days going to Santorini? It's been perfected on Instagram. So, what has happened to holiday destinations has happened to our faces, has happened to people, has happened to lifestyles. So there's a kind of impossible standard that I think a lot of people are looking for. And like I said, we can get into it, but I think it affects people differently depending on the age they are.
Interesting.
Whether they're in their 20s, and you're now finding, I saw a news piece the other day that Gen Z women are having an easier time, some of them dating millennial men, because some of their political beliefs are more aligned than they are with men their own age, because we're living in this really strange time where, it used to be the case that young people were the most liberal, and now, especially among men, they trend more conservative. So you've now got a lot of very liberal women finding a lot of men their age have very different views than them on life, and they're finding that older men have more things in common in terms of their views than men their own age. Again, these are generalizations, but there's something really fascinating about that. Then you've got people coming out of marriages in their 50s saying, you know, especially if they're a woman, I'm dating guys who are expecting, you know, very old ways of being, and I have to show up, you know, very grateful and very submissive to a relationship and having no needs. Meanwhile, they're not offering an awful lot. Many of them don't want to commit again. They don't want to get married again. They don't want to be back in a situation where they're being told what to do or where they're having to answer to anybody. So there's just so many mismatches across the board right now. And there is a bit of a sense of it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it does feel like that. You know, it's interesting because you coach, you know, through your business, which we'll talk about, Matthew AI, and then also all the events and everything that you do. You coach and talk to thousands and thousands of people about dating and millions of people across social media. Do you find, are people happier when they date somebody or marry somebody that has the same political view as them, or no?
I think it removes a variable. You know, I think it takes something off the table that becomes a deep source of antagonism in a relationship. I mean, it's not I deal with people who are, you know, you've got one person in the relationship who has one stance on abortion and the other side has a completely different stance. That's really tricky because you know, we're not talking two people in a relationship who are like, one of them thinks we should pay a bit more in tax and the other one doesn't, right. Which kind of, you know, those situations are a little easier because it's just like, you know, you believe in higher taxes and I don't. When it comes to those more deep-seated issues, it's very hard for people. And also, you know, we live in a world I'd be the last person to make the point that we're so divided. And so it's much more now, I think, you know, people have said, if you hear one person's belief now, you kind of tend to know everything they believe.
Yep.
Because of whatever echo chamber they're in. And so I think you have two people meeting where it's not just like there are nuances in, they have different, like they agree for the most part over here, but then there's just some areas where they just don't quite align. Usually it's like, no, you believe all of these different things and I believe all of these different things. And that's a hard relationship to have unless you've got two extremely compassionate, curious and empathetic people who are trying to understand each other, but that doesn't exactly portray the landscape right now, does it?
No, it almost feels like people want to lead first with ideology. It's like, I am my ideology, as opposed to I want to be with another human. Yeah. You know, when I was younger, I don't think I really cared or anybody knew so much what political aisle somebody else was on. It wasn't a topic of conversation we talked about consistently. And I wouldn't have said, I would never date Matthew because he's X and I'm Y. I'd be like, he seems super interesting. Oh, he has that political view? Whatever. Kind of doesn't matter. Yeah. If you're young and you're having a hard time finding somebody, do you think, like, does it help if you're like, man, maybe I should try dating across the aisle? Or are you like, no, it's actually a bad idea because now you just have all this friction later because we're so closely tied to our ideologies?
I think that we should try and be on the lookout for the values that seem to transcend what people think.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was Christopher Hitchens once said, it's more important how someone thinks than what they think.
Yes. I love Hitchens.
Yeah.
Letters to a Young Contrarian.
I'm sad.
Such a classic.
It's a great book. And I'm sad that we don't get to hear his opinions on everything today.
Yeah, me too. Could you
It always
imagine?
feels like one of the great losses of our lives now that we don't get to hear him weigh in on things.
Yeah.
He's a voice I miss tremendously.
He'd be a good person for young people to listen to too, because he was like a socialist and a communist and then a capitalist and then an atheist.
Who would he have been in
God?
20 years if he'd lived another 20 years?
He would have gone all backwards again. Probably.
Yeah, I don't
know.
It'd be fascinating to hear. And so, but you know, I always admired that idea of, how you think, not what you think. And, you know, me and my wife, Audrey, did not start with all the same beliefs about everything.
You didn't lay your voting card on the table. You met her. Say, can you walk me through each decision, please?
But it was, what was clear early on was that we did have some different stances on things. And the more we were in each other's worlds, I think we've really affected each other. Both of us have changed. And that to me there's something very, very beautiful about that. So if I had written her off because she believes different things than me and she'd written me off for the same reason, we might have been missing something more important, which is that actually at our core, Audrey and I are both intensely curious people. And I'm more interested in truth than I am in being right. So that, which by the way, is always, this is a very besides the point to make, but I always think it's an important point for people to hear, is that saves you actually from fear of embarrassment. And, in an interview like this, right, or a conversation like this, it would be very scary to go in thinking that the goal is to be right. Yeah. Because then if I misstep and say something that I turn out to be wrong about, it's a really hard thing for my ego to try and reverse out of that. But if I instead say, I just care about finding what's true, then I can change my position on anything at any time. And there's something very powerful about that. And I think that if you can bring that to a relationship, then you have a relationship between two people where they're both constantly evolving. So there's a certain magic to that you are prepared to change your mind about things. And I'm prepared to change my mind about things. And because we know that about each other, we're not keeping a scorecard of who's right and who's wrong. Instead, and there's something very disarming when you see someone else that you're with in a relationship say, you've made me think differently about that. Because it lowers your guard. When you hear someone say that, you then think, why am I being so stiff about my opinions? If they're willing to do that, maybe there's some areas that I need to concede on or I need to think about. And Audrey was always so good at that. She would one of the loveliest compliments she would give me, and in turn I've given her, is, because of you, I've changed my mind on that, or because of you, I actually think a little differently about that. And I really credit you with helping me understand more about that, or seeing that a different way. It's such a gorgeous compliment to receive from someone. And I know that getting that compliment from her has it's actually disarmed me in a lot of ways. And seeing that she has the humility to shift ideas has bred more of that humility in me in a relationship where I can think of times in the past where I've been very defensive and digging my heels in on a position and very competitive about who's winning the argument. And, we just don't have that in our relationship, which is lovely. And that's why I say that's deeper than what we thought was like this layer. How we thought was a much deeper layer. And because of how we thought, that we had an intense curiosity and a humility and a desire to know what's truthful, and that superseded what we thought.
It's so true. Yeah, it kind of goes back to that like Carol Dweck fixed versus growth mindset that she talks about. And I always thought, I've done a marriage wrong once before. And so I was married before. And I think the biggest problem was one of us, I think, was more growth mindset. So like, hey, I could be wrong now, but that doesn't mean I am wrong as a human. I'm just wrong in this moment. And like, we're going to keep figuring that out. And if you're fixed, you're kind of like, I am either smart or I am not, or I am wrong or I am right. And that is very actually fragile, as opposed to like, Taleb's anti-fragile, which would be like, yeah, I can bend. I'm the grass or the palm tree. I'm not the oak that can break.
It's only. Very freeing.
Yeah, it's
very freeing.
Now today, obviously, I want to obsess on the idea of how do we help more humans find love? For me in particular, if I would have said that comment 3 years ago, I probably would have, that's like so touchy-feely for me. I'm a finance person. I'm like, what is wrong with her? Like, did she do some ayahuasca before this? But I think now that I've been, married for many years, and I've watched my parents have an incredible marriage. One, I think it's such a superpower. Like, a marriage well done is so beautiful, and it's my happiest thing in my life. Like, he's incredible. And don't get me wrong, we fight all the time too and have all the issues. So I want to help people as much as we can with your expertise, find love. And then I also want us, maybe even more important, it's not just about getting married, it's about staying married, right? Happily. And so stay married. And so I kind of, one of the questions I had was, one, how do you stay married? What are the traits of two people who stay married together happily?
I like talking about this because I feel I'm discovering this as I'm talking, because I've talked so much about dating. I've talked so much about getting into relationships. It's fun for me to think about this side of it because I've been asked about it less. Look, I think that you have to actually be I think a great marriage actually requires an awful lot of discipline. It's not a word that comes up a lot in relation to relationships, but I actually think discipline is really, really important because if you have a good body, there's because there's a discipline there about the way that you show up in that area of your life. And it's not easy. It's not, there are days you don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like going to the gym. I would say 4 out of 5 days
Same.
that I go. I really don't. It's one of those things that I feel I'm happy I did it after I did it. Beforehand, not so much. And every area of our life is like that. Our business is like that.
Dating partnerships aren't the only ones that are really important. So are partnerships in business. If you guys right now are looking to build your business and you're confused on your next partner, on the next move in your business, I want you to know we got your back. We actually just started something only for owners of businesses who are looking to grow. It is, I think, for you. If you are a 6, 7, or 8-figure entrepreneur that feels like right now today, you don't exactly have the recipe for your growth accelerator. If that is you, we got your back. Go ahead and click the link. You can talk to our team and figure out if you should also build alongside some other humans who could be your future partners.
You know, that's so well. It has to be this thing that you go to work every day and you show up for it, and it's not always easy. You know, David Whyte describes, the British poet David Whyte describes our vocation as one of the 3 marriages that we are in. And like any marriage, you have days where you don't like it and you have to do things you don't want to do and you make sacrifices. And I think it's one of the things that makes people feel quite resentful of following their dreams is how disappointing following their dreams can be.
That hits too close.
But you know, like you do this thing, you see a person, I don't know, on stage and you go, I want to do that. But you're talking about 1/10 of the job when you see that person on stage. If someone comes and sees me at my retreat and says, I want to do that, they're seeing me in one weekend of my entire year. Most of my year is me sat in our house behind a laptop on Zoom calls or sitting in a quiet room making content. That people don't look at that and go, I want that life.
No.
They see you on stage. I want that. And that's such a small part of it. So then someone does it and they go, oh my God, I think I'm doing it wrong because I don't feel naturally happy all the time, or I don't feel naturally excited all of the time. So there are days where you don't want to do it. And I think there's true of relationships as well. It's challenging some days. You don't have the energy for it. You don't feel like listening to someone today when they're talking about something they're going through. And you're like, oh my God, I've 100 other things to do today. I really didn't need on top of that for you to be having an anxious moment about something. And you feel like you don't know. But how often is it like that at work? You have 100 things to do at work, and then someone comes to you and says, I need you to deal with this. And it is a swell of resentment that like, how dare you bring me one more thing in a day where I'm already so overloaded? But it's like, that's what you signed up for. That's the game.
That's the game.
And so when you realize that's the game, you have 2 choices. Either decide the game is worth it, or you bail, or you stop trying, which is the slow death from that point on. But you have to have a strong enough reason to believe that the game is worth it. And I have been, long before I was ever good at committing in my love life, I always thought I had a big problem with commitment.
Interesting.
And what I didn't quite realize was that I had already been married I'd been in a marriage for a good 10 years of my life that I had been faithful to in this organization I'd created and the work that I do. So it turns out I was quite good at committing when I had a big enough reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that in relationships, that one of the greatest things we can have is really start with a big enough reason to want to listen to that person have a problem today, to want to wake up and see if you can anticipate a little bit what might make their day better, what might make the relationship a bit stronger. That to me is everything. And I think I am more connected today to why this relationship is important than I've ever been in my entire life.
What is the reason why it's important to you?
It makes my whole life better. Everything good in my life is made better by my relationship with my wife, and everything bad in my life is made easier by my relationship with my wife. She is the amplifier for all good things and a balm for all bad things. And so she's like this core asset in my life, this core thing that has this wonderful effect on everything else. And so for me, it's just so, if I'm resentful or if I'm feeling annoyed or I've lost sight of the bigger picture, which is like, dummy, your life is so, like, you have forgotten how much better your life is because this person is in it.
What do you do in those moments? Like when you have a moment, you're in your relationship, you get resentful and you start pushing one way or the other. How do you realign and remember why you were there in the first place? Do you have frameworks or tactics you use?
I do. I have this is where we could really end up geeking out, but I have these things I call emotional buttons. Mm-hmm. And they are, this is a big module on my retreat, but it only became a module on my retreat because I had been using it in my life for so long that I felt like I can't not talk about it. But when we feel an emotion and it's a good emotion and we want to feel it again, it's really, really important to just like hit pause and go, what's happening right now? Is there a kind of set of ingredients right now that has led to me feeling this way? And it can be, it can be something really simple. I mean, there's a in that movie, The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg, and I forget the other guy's name, but it's about two brothers, really. It's about this relationship between two brothers. And there's this moment where Mark Wahlberg is about to get in the ring for this big fight. And his older brother is stood there with him. And he puts his forehead against Mark Wahlberg's head. And he's just talking to him. But I get goosebumps as I'm saying it because he's talking to him, but he's being like, he's making him feel safe in a moment where there's so much going on and there's so much noise and there's so many nerves, and his older brother is really there for him in that moment. And it became this instant kind of emotional button for me for why I wanted to be a good brother. It's almost like bypassed logic, right? Yeah. It's just I saw a thing and it instantly I was like, I want to be a better brother. I want to be I've got two younger brothers. I'm one of three. Like that, that is an image of the way I want to be a brother to my younger brothers. And the thing I love about emotional buttons is that they bypass, I don't have to write an essay to myself on my why for wanting to be a good brother. An emotional button just bypasses that. All I need to do is call back that image, that moment, And sometimes it's the music from that moment, if you want to use music. Sometimes it's the picture of that moment. Sometimes it's the literal YouTube clip of that moment. But I can literally go back there. Now, a lot of us do this unconsciously anyway, right? We have songs we listen to put us in a certain state, and we have videos we like to watch that pump us up and so on. But what I'm suggesting is much more granular than that. It would be too simplistic to describe it as motivation. I have emotional buttons for so many different, very nuanced things in my life. I have emotional buttons for being a great brother. I have emotional buttons for socializing, because guess what? I'm an introvert who has socializing for me takes a lot of energy, but I have emotional buttons that I've written down that make me want to socialize when I reconnect with them. So to your point, to circle back, I have lots of emotional buttons for wanting to be an amazing partner, and for how wonderful my relationship is, and how lucky I am, and the kind of husband I want to be to my wife. I have emotional buttons, and they're not things I've conjured out of thin air. That's the beautiful thing about emotional buttons. You're actually working with things, tapping into nerves you've already touched before.
It's brilliant.
Just by paying attention and recording the formula. Winston Churchill said, men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most pick themselves up and carry on as if nothing happened. And I would say anytime we stumble over a moment of peace, a moment of love for our spouse, like an uncommon moment of love for your spouse, where you just, sometimes Audrey has a laugh. I've never told her this actually, but there is a certain kind of like guttural laugh. She has almost like a dirty laugh that she has when you really make her laugh. I'm not funny enough to make her laugh like that every week, but like when I do, it's the greatest thing on earth. Like I live for that laugh.
Wow.
And something about that laugh, hard to even put into words, but there's something about that laugh that makes me love her so much. So me just remembering that under my emotional buttons for my relationship with Audrey would be that deep, like guttural, dirty laugh she does when she's really finds something funny. I think of that. I feel love for Audrey now as I'm saying it.
Yeah. I feel love for Audrey as you're saying it. I'm like, this is contagious. I'm like, I want to hear that laugh.
But that's, well, by the way, I mean, then we get into a whole other territory there, because that's why our favorite teachers at school were our favorite teachers, is because they were able to actually pass emotional buttons on to us. They loved something so much that there was a way of talking about it, a way of describing it, that they may have even been able to infect us with their emotional button. So if you were to open up my laptop, there's a file called Emotional Buttons, and it's broken down by all of the different things that I want to feel, because like Winston Churchill said, I never stumble over an emotion. Wow. Or a moment without just stopping and going, why do I feel so good right now? What is this? What's happening? What's the little formula that's going on here that I need to pay attention to, so that I don't have to wait until I stumble back over this by accident?
That's so good. It's almost like muscle memory when you're working out, how, you're supposed to pay attention. Like right now, I really am trying to flex my left glute because I want to activate it. And when I feel that, like you can feel it. But if you haven't actually paid attention to it before, it's hard to separate one muscle from another one. You could just be this cacophony of muscle movements, think you're working out, and actually not target at all the right areas.
That's exactly right. Because the button you would use to feel energized and like, let's go, is a different thing than maybe just contentment.
Right.
Or peace.
And you might not know why. And so then you become this series of accidents, like you talk about, where you don't know why your emotions are so all over the place. You don't know why you're feeling this way today or not, as opposed to like, I do recognize that I feel anxious in this moment, which happens just about every time I have 2.5 cups of coffee. and I don't get a good night's sleep because I sleep better with my spouse. That is such a powerful unlock. I'm going to start doing that.
I literally, there's almost no tool that I use more in my life than I have a little day planner that I put my to-dos in and whatnot. And if you could open it up now, you would see that every day, the first thing, and I'm not someone who's like 1,000 morning routines and all of that, but like there is this one thing that I tried to do. I don't always get it done, but I tried to spend just 5 minutes in the morning, open up my emotional buttons file and just pick a selection to engage with, because it's like having a kind of treasure trove of all of these things that tap into beautiful states that bypass logic and just make me feel like I feel very, very abundant when I look at them.
And you know what else I like about it? It's really simple. Like if I think about my husband, he notices them more. He has much better self-awareness and body awareness than I do. And so when he gives me a hug and he does this like deep breath kind of hug thing that if anybody else did it to me, it would totally freak me out. But when he does it, it's like I just feel down regulation. I immediately am like, that just got rid of all this stress I didn't realize I had. And it was just this big hug that I got from him. And if you asked me that question, what do I think would lead to a happy marriage, or what's my deep why? I would have gone cerebral. I would have said, because this is your partner through life and they're there for difficult times, and remember that. But it's way more powerful actually to feel it.
And you're right, by the way. You're absolutely right. That's a perfect answer. What I like about what you're describing is, if it is the why, right? Like if you had a table, it would be like on this side is your actions and on this side is your why for taking that action. Why am I going to take an action in my relationship today? Actions take effort, actions take energy. Why, how can I get myself to do this thing? And of course, as much has been written on starting with why.
Yeah.
And, you know, a friend of mine, Simon Sinek, has like led that charge. But what I'm intensely interested in is the bridge between action and why.
Yeah.
How can we get to the why quicker? What's like the main line where you can just push a button and that button is an instant trigger for your why, without you having to go through the process of every time you need to connect with your why, sitting there and going, I'm going to journal about what my why is in this area. What's like the instant like connector switch? And for me, that the middle column between those two is emotional buttons.
That's so good. Now, let's say that somebody's listening and they're like, all right, I'm not with somebody yet. Or a lot of people, I think, are with somebody and they're super unhappy. Like I know a lot of married people these days who say, I get it a lot from men, actually. Man, I wish my wife worked as much, as you did. I wish she understood the business. She's not as supportive with working all the time. So I guess my question is it better to have no spouse than an unsupportive spouse?
Yes. But it depends what we mean by unsupportive. Like to what extent, how do we define unsupportive? Because there's so much to say on this. Firstly, if we start from a place of there are many different ways to live a good life, and charging forward with a business that energizes and excites you is one potential route to a good life. So is being a teacher. So is having a hobby that you love, that you lose yourself in. So is being someone who's just very into creating peace in their life and doesn't need to be racing around all the time in order to be happy.
Sounds nice.
I'm one of the things, I'm not to be too self-referential, I want to be careful, but I am the kind of type A, like I've always been that hyper ambitious, charge after it. One of the things I've been most grateful for is having someone who also brought a different energy to the table. And I think that sometimes we live so much in our little like narrow lane of how we live our lives that we don't realize actually there might be some real merit to the way that someone else prioritizes differently than we do. And that might be just the kind of medicine that we need to help balance us out a little bit. So sometimes what people define as unsupportive, I think, is someone with values that says, for me, a good life isn't working day and night. That's not what a good life is to me. So then, and I would say there's nothing wrong with that. It might even be healthier. But the question is then, okay, so then how do these two worlds mesh? Mm-hmm. Is this person sort of this active impediment to certain goals that you have that are really important to you, and takes no time to understand or see where you're coming from or what you're trying to do and why it's so important to you? And are you someone who can't stand the fact that they live life differently than you, even when they're not necessarily asking you to be anything else? You know, if they want to build out their days differently, that's their prerogative. I think that there's an arrogance among a lot of entrepreneurs and people who start things up, that they think if you don't, like, if you're not on board, you don't get it and you don't support me. And it's like, no, you being with an entrepreneur is a nightmare.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare. True. It's like you like, many of them are workaholics. They never stop. They're always talking shop. They can't get their brain off the business. They're in anxious states a lot of the time, because it's like a lot of the time it's make or break, and you feel this immense pressure and stress. And also, let's be real. There is something wildly selfish about being an entrepreneur. Like that.
And irrational.
It's like people, I'm doing this for, no, you're doing this for you. Most people are doing it because they want, it's your dream.
Yep.
It's a bit like someone, we think when it's building a business, that somehow people get a bit more righteous about it. But if someone moved to, if someone's partner said, I'm going to go and act in Los Angeles, but I'm doing this for us, you'd be like, no, I support you and I love you. And if this is going to make you happy, then let's figure it out. But don't tell me that you're moving to Hollywood and making less money and doing all of these auditions for us. This is your dream. And I think we have to be very careful when we have a thing that we want to do, when it's important to us or our sense of significance or our sense of purpose or our ego, that we do this. And then we want to be mad at someone else because they don't get it and they're not like on board with us. A team is one where I recognize your goals and you recognize mine, and we both really, really care about each other's goals. And we really look at all those goals and we say, look, I get this is really, really important to you. How do we make this work? Like, what can we do? And you do the same for me. It's not one-sided. We do it for each other. That's a healthy relationship. But I get a little like frustrated with all of the people out there who have decided that they're going to go on this like crazy mission, and then they're mad at their partners for having questions.
Yeah, it's actually, when you say it that way, it's so true. You know, do you think, it's interesting. You talk to a lot of women about dating and how to not settle in their relationship and in the love that they found or find. What is your best advice for women on making sure they don't settle?
To cut to the core of it, be very, very honest with yourself about what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Because we tend to settle for things when we're not actually being honest about what's going to make us happy. So for example, you start seeing someone who is, charismatic and sexy and, makes you feel alive, and you have a great time with them. You feel this amazing connection. But let's say there are some major catches. They don't want a relationship. They continue to see other people. They are extremely inconsistent with their communication. They are completely out of sight, out of mind when you're not with them. So you never feel safe. You constantly feel anxious. You don't feel like you can ever fully hold on to them. It never really feels like you're together. And so you're living for the next time you're with them, which is amazing when it happens, but it's miserable when you're not with them. And even when you're with them, if you're honest, it's kind of miserable on some level, because even though you're happy, you just can't keep looking at your watch going, when is this going to end? I know it's going to end in a few hours, and then I might not hear from them for another week or two. Like that, in that situation, which is extremely common, we are incredibly unhappy. And we are lying to ourselves that we're happy. And we settle for that because we say, I can't give them up. They make me happy. They don't make you happy. They make you really, really unhappy. You feel anxious. You feel unloved. You feel forgotten about. You feel unimportant. You don't even feel chosen because they're not even telling you that they're going to be with you to the exclusion of other people. You don't feel safe. You are unhappy. You're telling yourself you're happy. It's not true. And the greatest, to me, a great piece of advice is the next time you go out to date, ask yourself, okay, before I even meet someone I'm attracted to, what was missing last time around, that because that thing was missing, no matter how wonderful I thought that person was, because that thing was missing, I was miserable. It was a version of hell. And anyone, look, I've been in a relationship before where I did not feel safe. I felt anxious all the time. I was constantly feeling insecure. And I really didn't want to lose the relationship. And I was so unhappy. Even one of my dear friends, my publisher, Karen Rinaldi at HarperCollins, she said, I came to see you one day during that relationship. And, I left and I spoke to my sister. I know her sister as well. She said, I spoke to my sister, and my sister said, how's Matthew? And she said, he is not happy. Like, I can see it in his face. He is not happy. Now, at the time, I would have told you, I'm great. I was miserable. I just didn't want to admit it to myself because then I'd have to do something I was scared of.
Yeah.
But, which is, by the way, either leaving or speaking up for yourself. But we're afraid to speak up for ourselves because we think that if we speak up for ourselves, then it's going to spell the end of the relationship.
Right.
That person's, we're only going to keep that relationship if we continue to keep our needs very, very small.
Yeah. Well,
and not ask for a lot.
And heartbreak is just, once you felt it, it's, you have PTSD. You don't want to feel it again. And it can feel so heavy and overwhelming. And so I get why we delay. It's like anything. When something fails or breaks, whether it's in business or in love, it sticks with you. And so, you actually help a lot of women with the worst case scenario, theoretically, which would be heartbreak. What do you do to help somebody through a broken heart, or what do you tell them so that they get over the PTSD?
And by the way, like, I should say this because I know you have tons of men in your audience. Actually, these days we're a very mixed audience. Like, we have everybody. I used to address more videos to women. These days I kind of remove the pronouns from it because I'm like, everyone's here.
Plus, we can do that in 2025.
Plus, we can do that.
Last year you couldn't do it, but this year you can.
No, I stopped. I'm like, this is so universal. This is so for everybody. I'm not like, we have a huge gay audience. We have a huge male audience. We have women. We have everybody. So I'm like,
humans.
Yeah, heartbreak is something we all go through, and it's the heartbreak. There's a difference between acute heartbreak and chronic heartbreak, and acute heartbreak is what we all go through when we experience a big loss in our lives. And the heartbreak where someone leaves us and we didn't want them to leave us, especially, although we can still get heartbroken when we're the one leaving and doing something that we feel is right for us, but we're going to miss someone. It's a form of grief. And, as my friend David Kessler says, who's the #1 grief expert in the world, grief is nothing but a change we didn't want. And that, in heartbreak, we experience the grief of this loss of somebody, and we have to work through that grief. That's acute heartbreak. Chronic, and by the way, everyone moves through acute heartbreak. Chronic heartbreak is what takes over when we can't seem to get out of it, when it sticks with us. And it sticks with us because it becomes a story. There's the facts. I lost someone. That's hard. I'm having to adjust. I miss them. I even miss the chemicals that flood my body when I have someone in my life. I miss the routines. I feel lonely when I'm by myself. I'm sad about the history that I've lost. I'm disappointed that the future I thought was going to happen is not the future that I'm being presented with, that it's going to be a different future than the one I had planned. That's all acute heartbreak. But when we create a story that makes that heartbreak never end, that's when it becomes chronic. So for example, a story would be, they were the love of my life, or let me correct that, they are the love of my life, and they left. So now within that one statement, you have a recipe for chronic heartbreak. Because now, no matter whether it's year 1, year 3, or year 5, the love of my life is out there somewhere, dating other people, getting married to somebody else, living their life, and they're not with me.
Does that happen a lot? Do a lot of people?
For sure, yeah. Because we go on believing they're the love of my life. And the truth is they're not the love of... They were a love in your life, but that... You have to define, what does it really mean for someone to be the person that's right for you? It has to surely involve them saying yes to you.
Yeah. So a lot of this is like definitions.
It's really important to say, if someone doesn't choose me, they cannot be my person. Right. There's no such thing as my person is out there, they're just not choosing me. That does not make sense. By definition, the right person for us is the person who sees what's valuable about us. It's the person who chooses us. The right person can never be the person who doesn't choose you. But as long as you tell yourself, my right person broke up with me, the love of my life broke up with me, and you hold on to that story, then you'll stay heartbroken.
I've never thought about it that way. It's like, if you don't know what you want, then you're going to keep repeating your patterns, and you're going to think that you're happy and in love, but that's really just because you have a definition problem. And if you keep feeling like your heart is broken and you'll never get over this person, that's also a definition problem.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. So I think a lot of times lately, what I hear is people saying, and I'll just go back to women because I am a woman, but replace this with a man, and I'm sure there's something different, which is like, men don't like women who are X. So like, I want to play that game with a few of these. For instance, do men not like women who are intelligent?
Some men are threatened by women's intelligence, that's for sure. Other men won't date a woman who's not intelligent. But I think to give credit to that statement, there's an awful lot of men who are already coming to the table with a chip on their shoulder, and they are trying to figure out where their significance comes from in life. And so when they come along and you're intelligent, it's one more way that I'm not good enough. It's one more way that you're highlighting a deficit for me. And for those men, the intelligence is not high on their list because connection isn't high on their list. What's high on their list is feeling significant. Like, I know that for me and most of the men I know, being able to have great conversations with someone is an absolute must for a long-term relationship. They want someone they can shoot the shit with, they can see a movie with and leave that movie and be like, what did you think? And that person goes, oh my God, when that thing happened and I really thought it was interesting in this way and so on, that was good. Like, they're like, wait, what? No, let's talk about it. Most of the people I know want that kind of a connection and are cerebral people, so they would struggle not to have that kind of connection. So for them, if they're going into, I'm not saying they don't have their insecurities, but if they're going into a relationship going, I want a genuine connection with someone and intelligence is important to me, intelligence is actually a must for them. But if you're going into dating women and your goal is not a connection, your goal is validation, your goal is significance, then the moment someone's intelligent, you're like, this is, I'm not going to get my significance here. And then add to that, if someone feels like they don't make enough money, or they're not tall enough, or they're not whatever it is they've told themselves they must be in order to be defined as a significant and attractive male, then any of those markers can immediately throw someone off balance. And so I think that's what happens, is women's intelligence throws a lot of men off balance when they're already coming from a place of insecurity.
You do such a good job, and this is why I like your content so much, of being able to see both sides of the gender and being able to see different types of humans without a lot of judgment, but saying like, well, if their highest value is X and your input is Y, you're going to have Z equation. And like, we're not making judgments on it. It just is what it is. Kind of goes back to that makes sense. Your core point is, I don't want to be right. I want to find what's true. And so I think that's why you seem to resonate with so many people, because you're like, I'm not zeitgeist. I'm not saying something to be clickbaity over here because I want to trigger somebody. I'm saying, here's the truth that I found for any type of human. But it's really helpful because you don't hear that side as often.
Thank you. That's very kind. It means a lot. I think I really do see from both sides what's happening. And it's not, no one is, there's fault on both sides. There is, I work with women every day who are themselves valuing the wrong things, who themselves are putting too much of a premium on something that doesn't matter. Or who have forgotten that, hey, it's an extremely immature place to come from, to think that a guy has to come to you bold and confident in every way when you're not 16. He doesn't, it's not, stop waiting for the captain of the football team to walk through the door as this, paragon of this model of confidence. He wasn't even that then.
It's like, put down the romance novel for a second.
This is a 16, this is a 16-year-old perception of the captain of the football team. He didn't have it all figured out, and he was insecure. Yeah. He just covered it up in a whole bunch of other ways. It's like there are women out there who are not paying enough attention to the nuances in men, or realizing that, hey, look, there are guys who are intimidated by everything. And that's a certain percentage of guys who can't handle a woman making money or more money than them, who can't handle a woman who's pretty, who they think could leave them, who can't handle someone who is intelligent or accomplished. That is too much for them. And then, for a lot of people they become quite angry. Not everyone, but a lot of people do become quite angry. And then, yes, there's a small percentage of guys who, for whatever reason, their wiring, their upbringing, whatever assets they naturally have, are wildly confident and are very at ease with themselves and with women. There's a lot of people in the middle, which is the biggest group by far, who are just trying to figure out, like, where do I fit in, and what is my value? And I think that value in a relationship is a team sport. I think we hear the rhetoric all the time, like, you have to come whole, and you have to have figured out all of your stuff, and you have to, and I find that to be such a gross oversimplification. I think we all, who doesn't come to a relationship with insecurities, who doesn't come with a little, like, baggage, or like someone did something and it made you a bit jealous and now you feel threatened and you don't know how to articulate it, and we all come with something. Some people come with trust issues. Some people come with a bit of a feeling of like, a guy might come to the table and he's always been told his whole life that he's not that bright. And so he comes to the table with an insecurity. It doesn't make him a bad guy. Exactly. I come to the table feeling like I've always been put down in that department. And so now, and by the way, combine that with a low socioeconomic background, and I couldn't go to college or whatever it might be. And I now have a bit of a propensity to think that someone who has gone through education and does come from money and whatever is a certain way. And it sometimes takes two people to come together and dissolve those caricatures we have of each other and those ideas we have of each other and those assumptions to make us like drop our guard and go, oh, I don't need to be that. And of course, again, one of the reasons why it's difficult today is because whatever you look for, you can find it. If you want to find women who who discriminate against men constantly because of their height,
yep,
you'll find it. There's plenty of them.
Yep.
You'll find it. But that's not all women. It's not all women care. Mm-mm. And some women who do care realize later on, I don't care with this guy because he's awesome. And I suddenly stopped caring because why on earth would I give up this incredible man? Like there's a part in my book where I talk about the idea of the wall and how one of the reasons why we keep finding the same people or the same situations over and over again is because we're so focused on this wall that we want to avoid. And, Mario Andretti said it, the Formula One driver, when you're racing a car, don't stare at the wall because the car goes where your eyes go. Mm-hmm. And that is just true in so many aspects of life that we stare at the wall. Yep. I had a woman who said, she was dating a guy. She said he was lovely. She was having a great time with him. And then one Saturday, he didn't invite her to a little get together between him and his friends. And she had massive issues with abandonment. And so when he didn't do that, she thought about it for 2 nights and couldn't sleep. And then the day of, she texted him and she said, in the middle of this get together, she was like, why didn't you invite me? And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I just haven't seen these friends in a while. Can I give you a call later? And by this point, like her nervous system was fully hijacked. So she said, don't bother. Oof. Now, every day that he obeyed that wish and didn't call her felt like a validation of the thing that everyone always leaves me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I've been rejected yet again. But that's always been her wall. And you stare at that wall long enough. It's like a guy who goes into a bar thinking everyone wants to fight him.
Yeah, it's true.
You'll always, if you're that guy, you'll always look for the guy who's giving you a funny look. And you'll always find that guy. Because there's always a guy who's willing to give you a funny look and who's ready to fight, because that's his thing. So then you find that that guy finds that guy everywhere he goes and says, it's dangerous. Everywhere you go is dangerous. And I had a little bit of that, I had to work on that for myself because I grew up with a sense of, I grew up around nightclubs and my dad was a nightclub owner and I was working in a nightclub from a young age. And I saw a lot of like violence and people being horrible to each other. And it kind of got my nervous system up. And so I was
were you a fighter?
I was someone who never wanted to fight.
But you did.
I was someone, no, here's the crazy part. I hated the idea of fighting with a passion, but my hobbies for my whole life were boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. Because that's when you get preoccupied with something.
Oh, yeah.
You start making it more and more and more of a focus. Now, I still do Brazilian jiu-jitsu because I love it, but it's not coming from the place it once did, which is I always have to be ready, because anything can happen at any time. And then when you're looking for that, and I wrote a whole story in my book about it where I was like in Japan with my brothers And one of my brothers was like singing karaoke in this bar in Japan, and everyone's having a good time. And I spotted, because that was my hypervigilance, I spot the one guy in the room who's giving my brother this funny look. And in my brain, I'm like, something's going to happen any minute. This is going to kick off. Like, and my brother's the sweetest, most loving. He's like, by the way, 6'4", 5, whatever, does not need me to protect him. But in my older brother brain, I'm like, this is going to kick off, and my brother doesn't realize, and this is the problem. No one else is paying attention. I'm the only one who's paying attention. So I'm the one. I ended up saying something to this person, and of course, the way that I said something to this person instantly created a situation, because I wasn't sweet and nice and whatever, and I spoke with a certain tone that made this person be like, I'm sorry. Like now we're in something. So like, that's an example of like, you're looking at the wall and crashing into it every time. And if you stare at your personal wall for long enough, whether it's that danger is always present, whether it's that no one can be trusted, whether it's that people always cheat, whether it's bad, women are bad, whatever that wall is, if you stare at it for long enough, you won't realize it's the wall anymore. You'll think it's the world. And once your wall becomes your world, you don't go, this is what life is like for me, or this is what life is. This is what men are. This is what women are. And that's what you have. So much of what's online right now is people who have made a decision about who women are.
Yep.
Because they're focused on their wall, and they keep speaking to other people who have the same wall and confirming, isn't this right? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? And they all agree, yes, it is. This is women. And then you've got women doing the same thing about men. And you've got that. And meanwhile, somehow there are all these relationships in the world between people who just actually really love each other and don't think about any of this. How is that possible? And people say, oh, it's because that's because they're good looking, or that's because, really? You want to go around the world and look at every couple you see and tell me that their magazine like level looks and that they all fit the stereotype of people who have got it all together, or who are rich and gorgeous and intelligent and funny? And no, every day, people with the same excuses as you find relationships. And that doesn't mean, by the way, you should shame yourself for not finding one, because the reality is finding love is hard. Mm-hmm. It is hard. There is nothing easy about finding the person you're going to share a room with for the rest of your life. That is not an easy thing. And the people who do it early and stay together, more power to them. Lucky f***s. Like, if you've met in college at 21, the love of your life, and you didn't settle, you're just genuinely happy forever, good for you. That is not normal. Yeah. Most people marry the wrong person too early, stay in unhappy relationships too long for half their lives until they finally get out, if they ever do, or never find anyone, because it's hard. It is hard. So I don't want any of what I'm saying to come across like I'm saying it's easy and we're just making excuses and all. No. It is hard. But I know for sure the route out of that is not to huddle together with people who have all the same hang-ups that we do. Yep. And confirm that this world I'm living in is the only reality that is available, because it's simply not true.
That's so good. It's perfect, because I'm thinking about a family member right now who is lovely, who I really want to find somebody, but I think she is looking at the wall, and her wall is men don't want to be in serious relationships. Men don't actually want to be with a working woman. They don't exist in my city. They exist in other cities. And if you just maybe allow that wall to become a curtain that you could potentially push aside for a second and see if there might be something on the other side, God, maybe your entire life would change. And it kind of takes me to one of the last things I want to talk about, which is you found this. You found that there's thousands or millions of people all around the world who have, hundreds of thousands of questions about how do I find someone. And so you did something a little crazy, which is you created Matthew AI, which is essentially AI that takes all of the data and all of the experiences that you've had in your books and all of your courses and puts it into one spot where people can go back and forth with you to figure out their unique answers to their questions, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is exactly?
So the biggest challenge I've ever had in what I do is that for 17 years, people have been asking for one-to-one coaching with me.
Yeah.
Or even if they never felt like that was available to them, DMing me with questions. I could be on a live with thousands of people and I'm getting thousands of questions all at the same time. Everyone wants an answer to their specific question. And we all are at different stages of life, having different challenges. We have different walls. All of us have a contextual question that we're like, okay, I get it, but here's my situation. And I have never been able to solve that until the last year. I'd never had an antidote to that other than to create courses and programs that catered to as many people as possible. But obviously the optimal would be that I would go and visit everyone individually in their home, sit with them and work with them. What we created with Matthew AI was, for the first time, a way that I could actually do that. Because as you say, we took 20 years of my content, courses, retreats, all the things, by the way, 99% of my audience have never taken. Most people watch me on YouTube or Instagram. They literally are just scratching the surface of all of the things that I actually coach when I work with people. But it took all of that and it put it into Matthew AI. And now Matthew AI is this service. Anyone who wants to try this, by the way, can try it for free at askmh.com. You can spend a few minutes with it just asking questions and see. People who are using it are routinely having their minds blown by how tailored the advice is, that it's not like generic. It's my advice first off. So you're not just getting advice from the internet, but how specific it is to their situation. Whether it's, I literally need to know what to text back right now. Can you help me with a text? Or my dating profile isn't getting matches. Can you help me redesign it? Or I have anxious attachment and I really like someone and I feel like my anxiety is going to blow it in the first few weeks or months of dating. Or I'm heartbroken and I literally need to talk to a coach for 3 hours every single day for the next 2 months. Like, it is helping people with both the very practical issues that they're going through, where they need to know what to do or what to say or how to decode something, what it means. People are uploading text message chains and going, what does this mean? Like, how do I interpret what they're saying? All the way to the much deeper issues of, how do I heal? How do I move on? How can I stop thinking about this person? How can I get through the worst time of my life? So, and it, by the way, is doing it in all different languages. We have people, like, literally you'll hear my voice. If you want to text it, you can text it.
I already did this, by the way. I already had some fun with Matthew AI. We tried to make it like mess up too, because I thought that would be fun. And it did it. I was like, what if I'm really into cheating and also I want to sell the other person's feet pics? And it was like, that's not a good idea. And it's really important in relationships that we have it based on honesty and integrity and blah. And I was like, this guy. It
didn't just support your evil goals.
No, it didn't just, which is really important. Yeah. Sometimes, you want to make sure, if you have friends, what do friends do? They're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're the best. He's wrong. It's him, not you. And I think what I liked about this in particular is I could see how people could come to it. And it is actually very emotionally hard to give advice that is needed, not what is wanted. And if you're not a pro and you just go to your buddies, you're never going to hear the things that you really need. Unless you have one very rare, strong-willed human who's also highly trained in it. And so I had fun seeing that they could have a version of you who also is not always the nicest, the kind, but not always, exactly maybe what somebody wants.
No, it's real. And because it's what I would say. You're hearing what I would say to you if you asked me that question. And and to your point, by the way, it's not just that it will be honest with you, it's that you can be truly honest with it. Because I have people who tell me there are things that I can ask Matthew AI and share that I would never ask my friends, or it's far too vulnerable for me to say this to anyone in my life. I even have a very small group of clients that I work with over the course of a whole year called Club 320. And I have women who are in that group who tell me, I can access you as a coach. Like every month we have a call together. They're like, I know I can ask you a question. And there are questions I've still asked Matthew AI because they are so intimate that I know, like, I just can't ask you directly, which they can, but they don't want, it's like some people are like
feet pics.
When it's regarding the sexualization of their feet, but they'll go and ask Matthew AI something that they wouldn't even ask me. So it's a very, very, like, it's discreet, it's tailored, it's contextual, it's immediate. You're not waiting a week for an answer. You couldn't, even the clients that I'm closest to can't call me at 2 a.m. Whereas if you're in the middle of the night, you can't sleep, and you're worried about like a situation you're in, or you're scared that you're going to text someone you shouldn't, or someone just sent you a text and it's got your heart racing, the Matthew AI is literally there in that moment to answer in the moment, which is what makes the biggest difference.
It's so cool. I think that's a real innovation. You were super early, like we were talking about before on YouTube, 20 years doing this on the internet, real longevity and expertise. And then this new world of, I think learning in the future is not going to be courses. It is going to be, I want hyper-specific, immediate feedback loops so that I can learn at my progress level and speed. And so I think it's really cool. And I hope more people do something like that because, man, like how incredible. We quoted, I don't know, we had 5 or 6 quotes between us of some people that we think extremely highly of through history. What would it be like to get to conversate with a Winston Churchill?
It's literally like what we said. Like, I wish Christopher Hitchens was here. I would be, if I had
Full
Christopher
circle.
Hitchens, if I had Hitch AI, I would be asking him like about every world conflict right now, every world leader. I'd be going, what do you think of this? Like, tell me. I just have to know. Like, there's something fascinating about that idea of especially in a world where it feels like everything has become so expensive, like the democratization of access to someone that you really would like to speak to. That to me is really exciting. The idea that someone who couldn't afford to come to one of my live retreats can still get access to me in that way is very, very comforting.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you, Matthew Hussey. Incredible information about dating and marriage, and maybe most of all, the future of AI in a way that we could apply it to love. Who would have thought?
Thanks for having me. And it's real pleasure talking to you. I know you said some very kind things about me, but
I'm not nice. I'm kind, so I meant them.
No, I appreciate it, and I feel that, and it's clear to me, why people really love what you do. You bring a real, to the point, cerebral, but still compassionate voice to the things you're doing. It's rare. What you're doing is rare.
Well, thank you. And same. And we'll link everything in the show notes. I want people to follow Matthew everywhere around the internet. I think the world is a better place if we all find a little bit of love. And I loved the line of, like, he said, I promise you right now, every single day, other humans just like you are finding love. And that's kind of beautiful in a world that gives a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
You guys want to know something crazy? Only about 40% of you who are listening to this right now are actually subscribed to the podcast. If you want to see bigger guests, better guests, and get the answers to more of your questions, do me a solid. Hit the follow or subscribe button. And the only way this podcast grows is by you sharing it with people. It's actually the hardest thing that I've ever grown, this podcast. So do me one more solid, which is share this with somebody you love who you want to find love. All right, until next week, guys. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at, while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description. Hi, and welcome back to the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. If you want to be respected for your words to carry weight, then this episode is for you. I'm breaking down the communication techniques the top 1% use to get people leaning in, not tuning out. By the end, you'll know how to stop sounding like everyone else and start speaking like the leader people want to follow. So today, I want you to steal my confidence and respect. First, speak in headlines. Start with the point, not the preamble. I obsess on my first sentence. Why? Executives don't waste time on throat clearing or setting up a big runway before they get to the takeoff. By giving the headline first, you frame the conversation and make people lean in instead of tune out. This is also how you never have somebody repeat your idea to a group of people and be able to take credit for it again, right? When you speak decisively and you say something in front of a group, it would be ridiculous for somebody else to reframe your ideas and take them as your own. This is called decisive speech. Here's what that means. Clear, direct statements, limited hedging, and using few qualifiers or apologies. That's really signaling I am competent. Let's say you want to talk to someone for a few minutes. You're trying to get a few seconds with them, a boss, a coworker. I brought this up last week, and what I think we should do instead is probably talk about this a little bit more, or we could table it and talk about it later. Can I steal a few minutes? Is now a good time? Hey, can we talk about that? A good time for what? Why? Why do you need to steal my minutes? Where are they going? What you don't realize, most people sound like that. You instead will sound something like this. I have a problem that is leading to missed revenue. Can we discuss no longer than 5 minutes? Or, I found a problem. I have a solution. I need 30 seconds to get an okay for it. The formula is what? What's wrong? Why does the other person care? How long will you bother them? The real issue here is marketing. It's not moving fast enough. We need to replace these 2 hires. The budget is too low. If we do these 3 things, work in 24-hour cycles, spend 1 hour a day recruiting, increase the budget, we will win. That is how you get people to listen to you. Warmth and competence. It's not how smart, rich, or pretty you are. Respect is about how fast you can signal, I'm a friend, which is trust and warmth. And you can rely on me, competence. The faster you can signal those 2 things, the more people like you and respect you. I learned this from the #1 behavioral psychologist I know, Vanessa Van Edwards. There are warmth cues. That means like smiling, nodding, for instance. A fun one is the slow triple nod, which is like this. The other person speaks 67% longer. That's because it is a nonverbal way to say, I hear you, I see you, tell me more. If instead you go, three fast shakes like that, what is that signaling? Okay, moving along, I'm ready to go. Let's keep talking here about something else. You do 3 little nods, a pause, and that signals, hey, I'm warm. I want you to keep listening. Another warmth cue is a head tilt. So you could say, I have some news. Straight shoulders, no movement. I have some news. That is a competent way to do it, but not warmth. A warmth cue would be like, I have some news. What are the 2 things that change? Head tilt and a lift of the shoulders. Now, more competence cues for those of you who are listening, which is probably the most important thing you can do, is confident posture. So that's standing tall, shoulders back, occupying space, shows certainty, credibility. Not hands below the table, hands in lap, hands hidden. Instead, hands on the table or in the microphone, showing straight up and shoulders back. Another way to show competence, steepling of the fingers. I'm listening. I'm thinking about that. What do we think we could do there? It's not like this, though. That looks creepy. This is a classic gesture. What it basically means is, hey, I'm self-assured. Next, cut words, add weight. You want to use fewer words, but make them sharper. We'll double revenue in 12 months. Okay, that is better than we have a plan to increase revenue significantly over the next year. Like, what's significantly? When next year? We want numbers, data, and credentials. So when we mention certifications, awards, supporting ideas with numbers, it reinforces our expertise. So we don't have to be better or smarter. The numbers do that for us. Data plus brevity signals confidence, and it makes every word carry weight, which commands attention to us. So if I was a boss and I said, tell me what you're going to do about this problem. A bad example would be something like, Well, I think maybe what we should do next is try, new hiring processes, or maybe we could talk to, so-and-so about that person that they knew last week. I'm not really sure. Can I get back to you? Bad answer. A good answer is pause. My gut reaction, which allows you to back out of it later if you find a better reaction. My gut reaction is, first step, we go and we talk to this person. Second step, we write down the findings. Third step, we come back together in 24 hours for an assessment because I don't want to make too quick of a decision. What do you think? Great. You've basically non-committed just as much as the other person has, but you sound like you have authority, even while you're saying, I don't know, I got to talk to a couple of people. It'll probably take me a day or two, right? Instead, we're pausing, we're framing, and we're saying we're going to regroup at a date, time, and checking for understanding. Speak like you want to be heard. This falls into 3 categories. I call it the get. Gestures, eyes, tone. So you get heard. So let's talk about gestures first. Gestures need to be precise. Using clear, purposeful hand gestures like finger steepling indicates deep thinking and self-assurance. So we want to really use our hands in an intelligent way. Authoritative vocal tone, speaking with a lower pitch, projecting the voice, avoiding filter words like, like, signals competence and confidence. Narrowing your eyes briefly signals, I'm thinking about this. I'm really focusing on what you're saying. I've got active engagement and analysis. A bad example of a tone, especially for women, sounds like this. Hi, my name is Cody. I'm really excited to work here today. I have worked in marketing for the past 10 years. What am I doing there? Well, I'm getting an uptick at the end of each sentence. Very normal for women to do. Instead, what would I want to do? Hi, my name is Cody. I've been working in marketing for the past 10 years. I'm really excited about what we're going to do here next. I can still smile, I can still nod, but my tone is flat and a little bit lower than normal. If you hear me talk every single day, it probably sounds like, hey, what's going on? Hey guys, how are you? Like, God, I'm so excited to see you. This podcast is going to be so great. That's what I normally sound like. When I'm trying to be competent, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be 1 octave lower and I'm going to be a little bit flatter. When I'm talking to somebody, I'm not trying to be competent. My eyes are big. They're like, I'm curious. I want to know more about that. This face does not make you feel like I'm competent. This face does. So I am going to really focus in. I'm almost going to picture a pinprick of my attention going to that other person. It's signaling I'm listening, but you're going to have to prove to me what you're talking about. Next, master the pause. What to do. After delivering a key point, stop talking. This is where we let the silence work. Why? Pauses, they create gravity. They make your words echo longer and show you're comfortable owning the room without filling space. Let's try. Let's say you have something really hard to say to a group, and you need to say something like, we're not talking about the right things. I might say something like, I think we all know we're not talking about what we need to. Pause. Look around the room. Get in people's eyes. At this point, most people keep talking because they're worried that somebody is going to jump in. You don't have enough competence or authority for people to wait for you to pause dramatically. So how do you fake that authority if you don't have it? You go like this. I think we all know we are not talking about the right thing. Put up a finger. This is basically telling them non-verbally to wait. And if you see somebody jump in, you just push the finger out a little bit more intensely. This allows you to hold the frame. If somebody starts to speak, you shake it a little bit more formally. When I do this in my head, I like the count to 5 as an example. So I think we all know that we're not talking about what we need to. 1, 2, look around the room, 3, 4, 5. Uncomfortable. Then I give an example, then I release the finger, and I keep going. Try this in your next meeting. It will blow you away by how much more people will actually listen to what you have to say. Next, tell stories, not stats. Use a narrative. We almost lost that company because of one bad hire. Is much better than, well, turnover rose by 12% last year. Why? Humans follow stories, not spreadsheets. Stories are sticky. Numbers slide off. CEOs weave both, but stories always lead. Historically, we call this passing through parable. At my companies, I have a saying, which is, show me, don't tell me, which means that I want to hear the story, I want to see the data, and I want it backed by numbers. When you have those three, we can get to solutions. But I don't just want you to talk about it, I want you to show me. Let's say you're trying to get a friend to listen to you. You've talked to this person 1,000,000 times about something that they should do differently in their life, and they have never listened to you to date. I would put a few of these into effect. Let me tell you what a bad example sounds like. Well, you've dated this guy a few times. Do you really think it's going to go well if you keep dating him? Don't you think we've kind of learned our lesson here? Do we want to really date him again? What are we doing? Right? That's questions. You're not holding the frame. You're not pausing. What would a good example look like? Mary, I remember about 6 months ago, you called me in the middle of the night crying. You were despondent. I could barely understand what you were saying. You really couldn't speak because you were crying so hard. I thought maybe somebody had died, but that was the night that you called and told me that he cheated on you and that you would never speak to that man again. And now here we are, 6 months later, when the tears are dried and you're going back to him. Do you feel the difference between the two? One is yeah, well, you've already done this again. Are we going back? Whatever. The second, you will remember. So take a moment and become a storyteller. Over the past 90 days, we've grown by over 60,000 subscribers. Yay, which is crazy. And still, less than half of our viewers are subscribed. So if you could double check your subscribe below, that would be incredibly helpful for the show. You truly are a big deal to me. Let's jump back in. Next, use the 3-point rule. So what to do? Frame everything in threes. This one's super easy and super powerful, so use it wisely. If I wanted to get somebody to follow my framework on something, I might say, here's the opportunity, the risk, and the next step. I don't even have to say 1, 2, 3. I could just show it with my fingers. But I know that it will frame my brain a specific sequence that other people can remember. Why? The brain loves patterns. And we like patterns of 3. The Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. It feels complete, memorable, and persuasive without overwhelming people. Really easy to remember 3, hard to remember 4, very difficult to remember 5. And if you probably haven't noticed, I've been doing that a lot in this video. Anytime you can insert rules of 3 and what I call named and framed segments, your speech will be better. So let's say, for instance, somebody is doing something really stupid, and you want to tell them, wow, that's so stupid. And there are all these underlying reasons why that's so stupid, and we should never do that. Instead, you might say, let's get to first principles on this. Let's get to foundational principles on what we're talking about here. You're basically saying, can we take a step back to really see what's going on? Let's get to second and third order effects, which is a fancy way of saying, what are the repercussions of the actions? If we do that, what's going to happen next? I believe that what's happening right now is a lack of urgency bias. What you're really saying is, I think you guys are slow, really slow. But because we frame it in this fancier way, it's harder to push back on. Next, command the frame. Define the lens others see the conversation through. Example, somebody says something to you and they're like, we shouldn't spend that money. I don't want to. Instead of saying, no, we should spend that money. No, I disagree with you. You say, this isn't about money. It's about survival. This isn't about cost. It's about happiness. This isn't about money. It's about our family. What are you doing? Well, whoever controls the frame controls the debate. In communication, this means not letting somebody else take your frame. You never want to respond with that, not right. No, we're not going to do it that way. I didn't say that. Instead, you would say, that's a separate issue, Matt. Let's focus on the core problem. What you're basically saying is, I don't want to talk about that. I want to focus on this other issue. But you're doing it without ever having to debate and get into the, no, I disagree with you, which is really a childish way to try to communicate. The last part of this that's really important is the way you communicate when we are frame breaking. How people will not allow you to steal their frame is when you fake it. So be really careful about saying, let's focus on the core problem, Matt. It's not really that. This little side smirk here, this is an immediate signal of condescension. I don't like you. I think you're dumb. Or, Matt, that's not really the core issue here. What we're trying to do is something else. This is a fake smile and it's visceral. Like, do you guys feel it? Like, I'm so happy that we're hanging out. You're like, no, you're not. You hate me. Like, you don't even have to say anything. Instead, you need to either turn it off or turn it on. Fake. I'm so happy to be here. No, you're not. I can tell. I'm so happy to be here. I actually have no emotional difference right now between the two. I'm just committed to the bit, right? I'm so happy to be here. And if you can't be happy in the moment, then think about something that makes you happy and plaster that on your face instead. But be really careful with the feelings of condescension coming out on your face. Next, project calm certainty. People trust leaders who seem unshakable. I find certainty to be contagious. Even if you're still figuring things out behind the scenes, be the duck gliding above the water, even though underneath you are paddling like a crazy motherfucker. Now, this is very unpopular for the internet, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. There is no crying in business. Do not cry in meetings where things are going sideways. Do not believe the influencers that tell you that that's okay. Do not show weakness. From an emotional deregulation standpoint, it is not okay to cry. Now, if somebody dies, if you hurt yourself, perfectly fine. If you have something else in your life that just hurts in that moment, okay, of course. But you do not cry because you are frustrated like a small child at your inability to communicate properly in work settings. You allow somebody else to cry. You pass them the tissue. You say, hey, no problem, take your time. But that's not you, because that is not a 1% move ever. Every single leader that I have seen cry in business is not a leader for very long. Business does not allow for crying. You can hate me on the internet for this, but your bank account will love me. Next, name the elephant. Call out the obvious thing when no one wants to. So if you're sitting in a meeting, like I often am, and everybody's sort of talking around the issue, right? There's this big, hairy elephant in the middle of your meeting room. I want you to try out saying it. Guys, are we not hitting our sales numbers because our product isn't good enough yet? That's phase one. We're saying it as a question. We also use the word guys as an opener. It's like, I'm not saying it. It's a question. Guys means it's a question we all have, isn't it? If you have a stronger frame and more authority, you can say, we're not hitting our numbers because our product isn't good enough yet. Now, I did a couple really subtle cues there. I look to the side. I put up my shoulders. I do a little, all of that is a stage 2. And if you want the highest frame, you would say, we are not hitting our numbers because our product is not good enough yet. Straight to frame, serious, no side. Anytime you lift up, side smirk, all of that, warmth cue as opposed to competence cue. Now, leaders earn respect by voicing uncomfortable truths. It breaks tension. It actually makes people believe in you more than anyone else in the room. You should really try it in a room where everybody else is doing the PC thing. If you can find that there is a truth that nobody is talking about, and especially if the truth maybe is on you, that's the ultimate. You know what I think the real problem is, guys? I think I made the wrong call on this. We should have done this. We did this instead. So I'm going to have this outcome. I'm going to take my burden of this. What else should we have done differently? If you are going to do this one, you better be right. And 2, you need to find your ally who already wants you to say the quiet part out loud, but maybe is scared to do it or really needs somebody else to do it. This is also where power dynamics come in. So you're going to need to understand who your allies are ahead of time. Often in meetings, this means that you talk about the meeting before the meeting to game plan. Never feel bad at thinking that top 1% communicators are born with it. That's not true. We prep. The way that you get to the top 1% is you prep more than the other 99% do. And finally, end with a command. Always finish with a clear action. Here's what happens next. By Friday, I want us to decide this. Why? Influence without direction, just noise. CEOs do not leave conversations open-ended. They move people to act. A little extra add-on for you guys. Ask dangerous questions. Lots of people ask safe questions. How's everyone feeling about this? How was your weekend? Instead, get a little sharper. What's the one risk that could kill this deal? Because real leaders don't just talk, they provoke thought. Questions like this make people take you seriously because they can tell you want the truths, not just to dodge. Sometimes the most authoritative thing you can do is say, I don't know, But I think we can find the answer to this question. And if we do, we will find the answer to everything. That is a hard question. Also, if you don't know if you are competent or warm leaning, let me give you a little piece of homework. Let's say you can't tell if you're going to become a top 1%er because you don't know what you need to lean into more. Go to your email. I learned this from Vanessa. See how many warm versus cold indicators you have. What does that mean? In an email, look at the words. Warm words are words that trigger oxytocin, the happiness drug. So that's like cheers, collaborate, learn, emojis, thank yous, exclamation points, smiley faces. Competent words are words like achieve, mastery, results, outcomes, data, charts, graphs. The truth is that best leaders have both. They use warmth and competence, and they use them like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. But almost every person I've ever met has one side more dialed than the other. If you guys haven't noticed, I am high on competence. I actually am pretty low on warmth. I get serious, and when I'm serious about things, I have a very serious face. And so I kind of am thinking about things. I'm not smiling so much. I need to work on my warmth cues because people could be intimidated by me or scared of me, which I've heard. And so every single one of us is going to be somewhere on this spectrum. The top 1% is both aware and then they prepare. Do you Today we're talking to you builders about how to make more money. I call this the sell things to rich people, they pay more. And I know that's true and it's cute, but is it so easy? Having sold clients who are both not so rich and rich, there is a truth to this meme, which I want to read to you. You can see it here. It says, $500 client. I just feel as though with this investment I'm about to make in you, that you should understand how our lives are about to change. And I need results and you need to bring them, and I'm entrusting you with our livelihood and lives. $50,000 client? Money sent, thanks. Anybody who's been in business kind of chuckles at this, except it's true. Now, here's why I understand the $500 client. You have to remember that they need that $500 to do something for them. They actually have a visceral need. That might be what's called last dollar for them. They need the return on that dollar to be so significant that they hold you to a level that is actually irrational. And so you don't want to just sell things to rich people because you're greedy. You want to sell things to rich people maybe even because you're not the best to begin with. In order to sell things to people who don't have a lot of money, you have to sell a huge amount of volume to be able to live. Volume is hard to get when you're not a very good operator. So rich people want you to sell them something. Remember that and use it to your advantage. There are two worlds of entrepreneurships. One world, scraps, selling cheap products to price-sensitive customers who churn the moment they find a discount. In the second world, sell fewer, better things for more money. That volume game can work. It's built some of the biggest business empires out there, Walmart, Amazon, McDonald's. Three small issues, though. The game is brutally competitive. It requires you to be airtight in your operations and infrastructure, and even the best eventually move into higher margin products. So a different path. Sell expensive things to people who can afford them. The question you need to ask yourself is, when was the last time you raised your prices? Our guess, well, 9 out of 10 small businesses undercharge. Why? Scary not to. If you start to realize wealthy customers want to be sold, your entire business can change. The question, though, is, what do rich people actually buy? There are 5 reasons rich people buy. Only 5. Every single reason falls into this hierarchy that I call the rich desire pyramid and teach to all of our portfolio companies. Number 1, status. Status means make me look important. It's the top of the pyramid. How do you sell it? You position your business as the best, not the cheapest. When they ask, well, can I get a discount? You say, well, you could, but you might regret buying from that guy. Why don't you just pay a pro now as opposed to regret an amateur later? You showcase expertise, exclusivity, and premium service. What are companies that do this really well? Because I always like to imitate, then I iterate, then I innovate. So you might want to imitate some of the marketing of Hermes. Limited run purses that are mostly handmade, although I hear there's some confusion about that by China right now, but let's stick with the plot, which is one person makes each item from start to finish. It's special and it's a signal. When you carry a Birkin bag, you are saying something. No one who buys a Birkin bag is trying to ask for discounts. This is a customer that actually wants to pay more for the alligator extra ridiculous thing on top. Except, is it ridiculous if they want to pay for it? In fact, I think you have to flip your brain about that. Number 2 in the pyramid is convenience. That means make my life easier. So if you think about rich people, if they have an infinite amount of money, they can buy almost anything, right? Except more time. So if you can do something that allows them to buy back their time, they will pay you for it, potentially up to a complete no cap at the top, which I really like. So how do you sell something like this? Well, you eliminate friction. That would be things like white glove service, subscriptions, concierge treatment, private jets, fast and expensive. For instance, if you go to all major airlines, but we'll use Delta as an example, Delta has really 2 classes of tickets, right? They have main cabin and they have first class. So you might think that the really special people go to first class. Well, actually, the really special people go to first class and then they get Delta Concierge, which is somewhere between $500 and $1,000 for somebody to get them from the front of the airport, drive them around to the back, let them load up first and privately, and it's for no different experience. No different product is sold there as far as the seat. It is literally just that it increases convenience for them. So that is what you need to think about in your business. If right now you have a landscaping service, why wouldn't you add a white glove offering to the top? What might white glove mean? It might mean, hey, one of our portfolio companies, we said, what about for new homeowners in really expensive suburban neighborhoods? What if you as their landscaping service said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, I know you're new here. We're happy to give you a landscaping quote and to do your landscaping for you. Also, we have a group of 5 other of the top tier service providers in your area. So if you need somebody for cleaning, I can make a recommendation. If you need somebody for window washing, roofing, interior design, we have a Rolodex, and I can literally do a white glove introduction for you to all of those people. And what do you do on that? You actually take an affiliate cut on everybody. So this is not as scalable. But remember, because you have big margins and because you create convenience, you can have a very sexy business doing white glove service of existing services. By the way, if you're building a business right now and you're stuck or you want to break out to the next level, maybe you're not where you want to be today. Believe me, I've been there many, many times. I want you to know I got you. We help thousands of business owners a year figure out how to scale to the next level. One of my favorite mentors said, every level you have, there's just a higher level and a higher devil. And so if you've been in business for a while and you're doing 6, 7, or 8 figures, there's probably one thing standing in the way of your next level. That's why we host growth and scale workshops 4 times a year throughout the year in Austin, in Miami, in San Diego, and you may be a fit to come to one of them. If it sounds interesting to you to get help on how to scale your business to the next level, you can reach out to my team at the link in the show notes. We believe in you builders, but we also believe that it's a lonely road and you can't do it by yourself. Number 3, exclusivity. Let me in, keep others out. That's what they're saying. This is why there are private members clubs. This is why there are golf courses, because rich people want to feel special, good, bad, or otherwise, like them or don't like them. This is something that people want when they have a lot of money to buy. So how do you sell it? Restrict access, invite-only services, VIP tiers. This creates demand. Think about it like, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of Tiger 21? Tiger 21 is a fascinating community. You have to have $20 million in net worth to be in a community that you pay $30,000 for a year, and they validate your income. They will not let you in unless they can validate your income and also your net worth. How fascinating is that? And then you are in a room a couple times a year with only other people that are worth $20 million or above. They don't want any other people in it, so they charge you a premium for only allowing access to other people just like them. We can hate this and think it's elitist, or we can use it and get rich. It's really up to you. Number 4, privacy. Give me some space. So often, once you have a lot of money, other things come with that. For instance, now that I'm public on the internet, there's lots of people that get doxxed, right? So they want to make sure that they're protected. There are entire services for scrubbing all of your information off of the internet. There are services that scrub your businesses off the internet. Don't tell people about them. Supposedly there's quite a few celebrities who scrub their children's photos everywhere off the internet. And so as you get more famous and as you get more money, people want things from you. If you're famous, maybe they want your picture, they want access to you, whatever. If you have more money, they want some of it. And so if you can create this privacy buffer space, then you can make a lot of money. So how do you sell it? Well, you offer high trust, high security, high privacy services. A way to do this across the board might be like, I have a cleaning company and I only clean really high-end customers' houses. So all of my cleaning ladies sign NDA policies. They make sure that they understand owner preferences. You can tell us how you want to be communicated with by our cleaners. So you can do this because you allow absolute discretion, which builds loyalty. This is really, really critical in my mind for service businesses and so underutilized. And maybe if you don't have a lot of money right now, this one doesn't make sense to you, but I'm going to tell you how to make any of these make sense to you so you can apply it to your business and your life right after this. 5, scarcity. Make it hard to get. So let's think about this for a second. Why do rich people want something to be hard for other people to get? Well, they want to feel special, right? So at a certain point, if you have all the money in the world, it's not just about other people thinking highly of you. It's about you being able to tell a story about a thing you were able to do or get or see that somebody else couldn't get. It's almost like a rich person pioneer, right? They're like, I want to be the first one to plant my flag on a foreign land. So how do you sell this? You limit availability. You do this on purpose. And let me tell you how rare this is for entrepreneurs to do. What do entrepreneurs want to do? Sell more things to more people again and again and again because they want to make more money. It actually doesn't make sense in your head commonsensically to think, well, maybe I should sell less things at a higher price. But that is what this is. And how you do this is waiting lists, premium tiers, applications, all drive demand. Think about waiting for the brand new shoe drops, or we talked about Birkin bags before. In fact, you want to actually have things that are a real commodity, which means they're limited in quantity. I met a guy, I was at this event, and this was an event for a bunch of rich people. And you know, funny thing about rich people is they have weird hobbies. And so this guy in particular had just exited his second or third SaaS company. And I'm sitting down with him and I'm like, what are you working on right now? Lord, do I wish I hadn't asked that question, because I got a soliloquy on crystal marketplaces. He had just started a crystal marketplace. Now this isn't your ordinary woo-woo Austin crystal. He was showing me his crystal collection, which was like, I don't know, $1 million crystals. And I felt like that meme where that like guy is whispering into the girl's ear and she's just dying on the inside as she's listening to him. And that was me with crystals this day. And so he went on and on about how he's bought this $1 million crystal and it couldn't be anywhere else. And this is so special. And I feel like he might've missed the plot about what women care about today because he appeared to be single. But why would he care about that? Because there's only one crystal just like that in the world. There's only one diamond just like that in the world. They're buying into a feeling, a position, a lifestyle. They aren't price sensitive, they're value sensitive. And once you understand this philosophy, you'll be able to sell to rich people. If you want to sell to wealthy customers, you got to ask yourself the rule of two. Does your offer hit at least two of these categories? If you're selling convenience, add exclusivity. If you're selling status, add scarcity. If you're selling privacy, add convenience. Rich people want to spend money, give them a reason to. Here's the difference between the two. Selling cheap means you're going to have price-sensitive, high churn. You're going to have harder to scale volume game. You're going to have competitors everywhere. Selling rich means they'll pay a premium for the right product, no price shopping if they trust you, and will keep spending if you deliver. The difference between the two is really one singular idea. Do you understand rich people? And if right now you're like, oh, this sounds great, Cody, but I've never even met a person who could buy a Birkin bag or wouldn't think a $30,000, $50,000, or a $200,000 purse is criminal, then I need you to do something. You see, what changes is when we are around other people who have money, it opens up our eyes to what is possible. And so what I'd like you to do is I would like you to go to somewhere that rich people are. If you're in LA, go to Beverly Hills. I just want you to walk around. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to do anything. Go to a luxury shopping mall. See how they engage with their customers there. Try to engage with the people who are there and see how they treat you versus other customers. What can you do to change the way that they treat you? If you dress a certain way, will they treat you differently? Go and sit in the lobby of the most expensive hotel you can find. Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons. Dress how you think is appropriate. You can bring your own food and drink if you want to. Be sneaky about that. But I want you to watch the people coming in and out of the lobby. How do they engage? If you get a chance, sit and chat with them. One of my friends